Hi, my name is Cassandra, and this is the Healing Grief Podcast. And today I have my friend Debbie. I've known her online for decades, and I think this is our first time speaking. We met, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we met on Prince.org. Did we meet
We
there?
did.
We did. Okay, that's what I thought. And you are my Tay lover, and my Tay, for those who don't know, was Prince's ex-wife and the mother of his child, and she's the reason I belly dance. And Debbie really loves her too, so we connected in that way. And unfortunately, Debbie has lost her mother as well, and we'll get into that. But I'm really excited to talk to you for the first time. I'm sorry we didn't get to meet. I left LA before we got to hang out, but I'll be back eventually. So, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I was worried for some of the people in LA with the fires, but luckily my relatives and friends are okay. So that's a
Yeah,
blessing. It's
yeah,
unfortunate for the ones that, you know, have been displaced because of it.
yeah. I have a belly dance teacher who lost her home in Altadena, and it's just so sad. And that's a different kind of grief, losing
Mhm.
objects and memories. It's tragic what's going on there. So, yeah, we met through Prince and we both lost our mothers. So, tell me a little bit about your mom. What was her name? And
Her name
yeah.
was Gemma,
Mhm.
which is a precious stone, a gem. And it was just me and her. She raised me, and it was 2001. I remember a little bit after the 9/11 because she was in the hospital um, dealing with ovarian cancer. But at the time, I was pregnant with my second daughter. So my family didn't want to tell me how bad it was because since
Oh,
I was high risk pregnant, they were just telling me she's going through her cancer treatment. They wouldn't tell me um how bad the situation was, how much time she had. So
mhm.
I think in a way, me not knowing how much time she had or how serious it was didn't prepare me for the grief that I would feel or the unanswered questions. Like I felt like I didn't have time to ask her everything I would want to know
Yeah.
because they didn't give me that choice. They knew they had told them that she had like 30 days or less
Oh,
to live, but
wow.
yeah, but they
They
never
kept
told
you in
me.
the dark. They kept you,
They kept me in
wow.
the dark. Yes. My daughter, as a matter of fact, was born a whole month early. And basically, my mom waited till I got out of the hospital because as soon as I had the 1 week checkup for your newborn, the doctor told me, "Oh, you're clear to go see your mom." So I guess at the time, my ex-husband at the time had let the doctor know how things were about and how bad the cancer was, but they didn't let me know since I was high risk.
Wow. They don't
So,
want to stress you out.
right. So I remember October 5th taking my daughter to see my mom. And my mom, by that time, they said she was sleeping most of the time, but she
Hmm.
did wake up to see me and the baby and tell me how beautiful she was. And I remember spending like an hour with her, but she was sleeping most of the time. And so I told her, I'll be back tomorrow, Mom. And I went home that day. And I personally, like at 6 o'clock on October 6th, I felt a weird feeling, like not necessarily a fear, but like anxiety. And
Mm.
so I called my aunt and I go, "Oh, can I talk to my mom? I have just this weird feeling." She's like, "Oh, she's sleeping. She's sleeping." So I called her back an hour later and they kept telling me she's sleeping. But what they did do was call my ex-husband and tell him that my mom had passed away, but didn't tell me. So
Wow.
right? So I didn't find out till like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Mind you,
But
my
you
mom had,
knew, but you
I
knew
knew,
like deep down in your body, you knew
I
something had
did
happened. And
because
why
the
did
moment
why did
that
they tell you if you weren't pregnant anymore?
exactly, and I have no idea if they were trying to protect me from what, having a breakdown, or to me, I feel that I didn't go the proper grief process that I would had
Mm.
they let me know, because I was her only child. And so to me, to be let known at 4:30 in the afternoon, where family from TJ and Los Angeles had time to drive to San Diego, and I lived in San Diego, and the whole family was there before her actual daughter, like didn't sit well with me. And then
No.
yeah, so I was like, how is it that her siblings and her parent, her father's there before her daughter? So I think to me at that point I just disassociated. Like
Right.
even though I'm going through the process, to me it looked like she's just sleeping. I couldn't process everything that was
Wow.
actually going on.
Yeah,
So it
because
took
they
me
didn't
a
let
bit.
you.
Right. And they took over everything. They didn't let me know any of the funeral arrangements or anything. And I guess they figured since I just had a newborn, it was better not to let me know anything. But I feel that that was detrimental to me, to my healing, because I didn't have
Hmm.
that closure.
Right.
And so, I feel that a lot of the steps in the grieving process, they took away from me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to properly grieve her or understand, like, why do I feel angry, why do I feel like things are left unsaid, and it was because it was,
Right. Yeah.
family thinks that they always know what they're doing or it's right, but they don't know how it affects other people, because
Right.
that took me years to process. I'm still processing my mother, missing my mom. Why do I have certain, like, how do I say, not necessarily anxieties, but I have certain quirks, and it's
Hmm.
because it's my fear of abandonment. It's my
Yeah.
fear of, I feel like I can't love things too fully or I'll lose them, and all
Yeah.
of that is tied to grief, and I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it was like you went through a sudden loss instead of like when my mom was sick, I had 2 years to prepare, but
Mhm.
you didn't have any time to prepare, but everyone else knew. That must really made
Right.
you mistrust the people in your life
Oh,
too, right?
totally, because
So that's a
that
different kind of
family.
grief. You have to grieve the family you thought you had, you know?
Oh yeah, and that they think they always know better, and they don't necessarily, because
Right.
everybody grieves different. So
Yeah.
I felt that disconnect with my whole family. I felt alone, and who do I have? It was just me and my mother. So basically I felt like orphaned, and I couldn't
Yeah.
understand or assimilate that.
And how old were you again when she died?
um when my mom died I was 20.
20. Yeah. That's
But by
still
that
young.
time,
Yeah.
oh yeah, because I got married at 17. So
Mm.
I was young and not living with her. And so that's why they kept stuff away from me or tried to, and not let me know how serious things were. Like they just told me, oh, she's sick, but they didn't tell me what type of sick. They didn't let me know
Yeah.
that she had cancer. I feel like they had a lot more time to get things out of the way for themselves, but not me, And I feel like being her daughter, I should have been privy to that information, regardless of whether they felt it was bad for me or health wise or anything. I felt betrayal being that, they're my blood, but yet they're telling my ex husband information that I should know firsthand. So
Yeah.
who do I trust? I
Yeah.
like, I can't even trust my own grief. Sometimes I was so
Mm.
confused up until I started going to therapy when
Hmm.
I lost my son. Um, I didn't know how to deal with it. And music took a big part in that.
Yeah.
That's why I liked Prince and Maite, and even with her loss of her son, like I could relate to that. Like some of
Hmm.
Prince's songs I could relate to. In music you can.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that that that's part of healing too, whether it's art, whether it's listening to yourself. Like I suffer from fight or flight mode. My body is constantly tired because I have
Yeah.
high cortisol levels.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell
Yeah,
people like it's a full-time job trying to keep my cortisol levels at bay.
it
There's all
is.
these things I try to do because yeah, when you have trauma in your life, your trauma is stuck to your body. I'm starting to read this book called Waking the Tiger. It's about somatic therapy and like how the body holds on to things. And that's so true, you know. And I wonder how your mom felt about them keeping you in the dark. Do you know?
I don't like, I am one of the things that I had a problem with the therapy was they were pushing the religion part too much. So it took me three
Oh,
different therapists to go to. I came from a religious background, but I felt, you know, that everything, all that faith I had, all the beliefs I had went out the door. Went
yeah.
out the door when I lost my mom,
Hmm.
further out the door when I lost my son. And I'm trying to make my way through, but I still feel lost in the world.
Yeah, that's religious trauma. I used to get mad at God because my mom really believed in God and then he took her. I was like, what kind of God would take somebody like this, you know? And it made me not religious. You know, despite, yeah, Prince was very religious, but I was like, I'll ignore that. You know, love is God, love, you know, God is love. I always kind of thought of that. Like
I always
Prince,
took it if he was trying to find, because I do believe that there's a higher person,
hmm
but not in the way that they're trying to push Christianity onto us, Catholicism. I believe that there is a higher power. And
hmm
I do believe in energy and crystals and all of that. And
yeah,
I have tried, going and getting readings and see if I can connect because I want that connection. I still
mm,
feel lost. I'm in my
yeah,
40s and I'm still barely healing the inner child that was damaged in the beginning. And this
hmm
grief process is very hard. There's days where I feel like, okay, I'm making uh, two steps forward, but then I go five steps back.
yeah, yeah.
So it's not a linear healing.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people, you know, that's why I'm going to have an episode about the five stages of grief. And I think those those kind of more apply to losing a job or breaking up with somebody, but like death is the grief is such a roller coaster. Some days it's great, you know, you don't think about it, but some days something hits you and there's no time limit. You know, I like to tell people, you know, it's been 30 years for me and I'm still dealing with the loss of my mother. So
Right.
it's, yeah, I don't feel guilty if you still feel bad. You loved somebody and they're not here. And have you talked to her yourself? Like, do you talk to her out loud?
Oh, I do
Yeah,
constantly.
that's good.
And I ask her to send me little messages, like I know, like if you're listening. So
Yeah.
I will get like, a butterfly. And I know you feel that too with the butterflies, a
Yeah.
message or, sometimes I'll be like, send me a blue bird and I'll see a blue bird. So I know that
Yeah.
they do hear us.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's why I've really been talking about speaking out loud. And I remember when I was little, I would do it. I would cry because, you know, it was so difficult being a little kid with your mom gone, but it really helps. So I'm glad you do that.
Oh yeah. And
And
I
you're
do
open
believe
to it.
that losing a parent, it shapes who you are,
Mhm.
with me, with my children, I try to do what I felt that I lacked, that, my losing my mom didn't do. I wanted that close relationship with my children and I wanted to be there. And, you know, I feel like I missed out on a lot of things because, like, basically, I felt like an orphan.
So you were in your 20s. Like, how
Mhm.
did the grief affect you then versus now?
Well, I feel like I didn't really grieve. Like, to me, it was like she was on vacation because I would still
Mm.
try to call
Hmm.
her and I'd be like, oh, so I feel like my family cut that big chunk of it out. And because I was a newborn, like I had a newborn to take care of, I set that grief process aside. I was more focused on, being a mom to my newborn and my toddler, that I feel that at that moment I didn't really process. And it wasn't until later on that I'm like, oh, hey, I should have had those moments, those questions that I have, or these things to be answered. And the most messed up part was that her sisters and brothers distributed my mother's little bit of things because she didn't have a lot of things, but they
Mm.
distributed it amongst themselves and didn't even ask me.
Oh, you didn't
So
get any of her things?
none of her material things or anything, and I'm
Oh
going, wow,
no.
like she didn't have much, but like, did you even consider me? Like, did you ever think of me? So I think that also affected my grief process in the sense that I didn't get to grieve her like that. And it wasn't until later when I would be angry and feeling frustrated that I didn't understand that that love and that anger was the grief speaking, was that
Yeah.
part that I was missing. And
Mm-hmm.
and then yes, I do get upset sometimes with them because I'm going like, you took that away from me. And it still hurts. There's days where like, I would want my mom there to even just a hug to console me. Like even when you're sick and you feel like, who's gonna
Mm-hmm.
take care of you, just like a mother's touch is something that to many people doesn't seem big, but when you don't have your mom, it's a big thing.
Yeah, it's huge. I always say I hate getting sick because the only thing I want when I'm sick is my mom. Every
Hmm.
time I'm sick, it like turns me into a 5-year-old, and I'm back in our
Hmm.
trailer watching Price is Right, and she's feeding me soup, you know,
Right.
it, like
And I'm
takes
not
you
saying
back.
I don't have people who care, but it's just a different
Different. Yeah.
comfort. Yes. It's a
Yeah.
whole different comfort.
So, what was your relationship with your family like afterwards? Like,
Oh, almost
you're,
non-existent.
wow.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you could go to them now and be like, give me her things, like, where's my mom's
Oh,
things? Give me
yeah.
something.
I think like years later I got like a robe of hers, but that was it. And who knows what they did. And to me it's just material things. But the
Hmm.
fact that you didn't consider me is like, wow, I was her only child. Like
Yeah, you
I
are a
know
piece of
she,
her,
right.
literally.
I don't think she would be happy with that because I know I meant the world to her, when she was here.
So she
Yeah.
wasn't talking the last time you saw her? She was,
By that time she wasn't. She was just sleeping a lot.
mm,
So, and they said that, in the stages of before they pass away, they go through like where they stopped eating and then I think they sleep a lot. So it's just the body shutting down.
yeah, the body, yeah, and the soul starting to get loose.
Hmm.
It sounds like your grief was delayed. When did it like shoot up again? Like, because I know with my mom's, like Prince's death really triggered. So what triggered, did something trigger it? Because you said you
Oh,
lost
for
your
mine.
son.
I lost
Yeah.
my son 4 years
Y-
ago. Yes. So that really triggered it because at that time, you know, I'm like, I've been through this, but it's weird how your body disassociates. And out of
mhm.
shock, a
Yeah.
lot of the things I don't remember the first few days, I don't remember. But
Mm.
I'm glad I did have, my family surrounding me. I don't think I would have been able to make it through, knowing that she was, up in heaven and welcoming my child made me feel better.
Yeah.
But that grief of losing a parent and then losing a child, I feel like no parent should ever lose a child. The
Yeah.
children are not supposed to go before the parent. And I
Right.
feel like the parent should be here until the children are old in a
Yeah.
perfect world, right? And if we could have
Hmm.
our choices, but that brought all those feelings back. I had to go to therapy because uh, I couldn't handle it. All
So
those
what
feelings.
happened with your son? Because I know there's people listening that have gone through this, and
Mhm.
maybe they could relate.
Um,
What happened?
it was during COVID, and we found him unresponsive. He wasn't breathing. They were preemies, so they always had lung problems
Mm.
and asthma. And so during COVID, he got sick, and we found him unresponsive. He had went to sleep and didn't wake up.
How old was he?
Mhm. 11.
Oh, wow.
So, and he is a twin, so that was very hard too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, how did it?
Mhm.
Because I've heard so many stories about twins being so intertwined spiritually. How did the twin
He
get?
got very quiet. Like we were at the hospital with him, but his siblings told me that his twin got very quiet. And a few minutes later, we called and let him know that his brother had passed. And his older sister had told me, she goes, I knew the moment it happened because his brother got very, very quiet
Oh,
and pale.
wow.
Uh-huh. So at that moment, he knew his brother was gone.
Ugh,
Yeah.
that's awful. Like, how deal with the grief yourself and then have to help your son through that. Like, I
Oh,
can't
it was
imagine.
very hard. I try to get my children therapy, and it's still hard. It's gonna be 5 years in October, and it's still hard every day. Just
Hmm.
getting through. I went through a deep depression, and but trying to be strong for my children here, and going through anniversaries and birthdays and graduations has been so hard because it's like part of you wants to be happy, but part of you also misses,
Hmm.
and believes that person should be here enjoying those moments. So it's like, happy, but a part of it's sad too.
Yeah, there's always a missing piece
Right.
with the celebrations or there's no melancholy. Like that's how I feel too. Any graduation or wedding or
Hmm.
holiday or just like their absence.
Oh yeah. Like a song can set me off and I'll be crying and, you know.
Oh
So
yeah,
some days
songs are
I'm good.
huge.
Some
Yeah,
days I'm
that's
good, some days I'm not. To be honest, I don't even know how I make it. I just take day by day.
yeah, yeah. Take minute by minute. It's kind of like getting through addiction. It's minute by minute, second by second. You just do what you can now and be grateful for what you have. It's it's hard, you know.
Right.
And how are your kids doing now?
They're doing better. I think that therapy, getting them help with therapy early on, helped them process things more better than I did. And that was a big thing for me. I wanted to get them, help in case they had any questions or wanted somebody else to talk to that they felt they couldn't come to my husband or to me.
Yeah, yeah, and someone who's not in the family, I'm
Right.
glad they're open to it because some kids don't like to do
Right.
therapy. And
Yeah, because I
did
think it's taboo. I think they made it
mm-hmm,
taboo, but it's important for people to be able, it doesn't have to be like a medical professional. I feel like even if it's talking to friends or somebody, just as long as you feel like you have a way to vent, whether it's dancing, whether it's drawing, arts and crafts, find a way for you to be able to vent and let your feelings out. We were taught that it's not okay to cry, and that's the complete opposite. We should be able to release it because that's why we're so wound up.
yeah. And that's why it explodes in the most inopportune times,
Correct.
because if you don't feel it, it's gonna explode eventually. Just like grief.
Mhm.
You and I both had suspended grief where we didn't get to do it because I was young and then you were left in the dark. And then boom, it
Mhm.
comes out later. Have you seen signs of your son since he's passed? You talk to
Um,
him?
well, I talk to him every day, and I do
Oh,
like I'll get like a feather by my door, or sometimes like I'll look and I'll see a heart in the sky when I'm just thinking about him. So
oh,
I get butterflies a lot, blue butterflies. So funny because one of the twins, him, Edward, who passed, was always blue, and his brother's color is always red. And so I've seen the blue butterflies, and they're not that common here.
no, I never see blue butterflies. That's really I like that you talk to them. I'm like I said before, I'm always telling people just talk to them out loud. For some reason it's hard sometimes. Like sometimes when I'm talking to my mom, I start crying because it's just sad I have to talk to the air. But I believe her spirit is still there, just like I believe the spirits of
For
your
sure.
mom and son are around you. And then they're together, which I'm sure is comforting in a melancholy type of way.
What I did notice is like I hardly ever dream of my son except early on when he passed. So that's
Mm.
something um that I haven't. I dream of my mom, but not of my son. People have told me, maybe it's because your grief is still too early on. I don't know, but I did notice that I haven't dreamt of my son,
Mm. Yeah, I don't dream of my mom very often.
right?
What was your thoughts on spirituality and the afterlife before?
I totally believe that there's an afterlife. I
Hmm.
believe, like, our bodies are just our vessels and our energy lives beyond.
Yeah.
So that's where I struggle because, I want to have faith, but because I believe that there is a heaven where we will reunite with our loved ones. but I
Mhm.
have a whole problem with people telling me, give your faith and everything to God, because that day I got on my knees, I begged and pleaded with God, and I feel like He has taken everything I love.
Yeah. It's easy to be angry. And anger is a big thing of grief. It
A
really is.
big one.
Yeah, people just think it's sadness and sadness, but no, it's like you can be mad. I'm still, anger is like the biggest one I deal with to this day
Mhm.
because it's just like not fair. It's like why do amazing, nice, sweet people need to be taken and there's still jerks in the world, you know?
And that's exactly how I feel. Like, why does it look like so many evil people get away with everything?
Yeah. I know in
How can they?
spirituality we'll say, "Oh, God wants them with him." It's like, well, that's rude. Like,
Right,
why does he get all the nice people and I'm stuck on earth with these jerks? You
right.
know?
No, I agree.
Yeah. That's totally why people have crisis of faith, I'm sure, because you just realize that the earth and the world isn't fair and good people are taken early where bad people are here still. And you're like, what is that about? And yeah, and how you said that therapy is taboo. That's so true. It's like people think, oh, you go to therapy because you're crazy. You're crazy. I remember when I first went to therapy about Prince and then I couldn't stop crying. I was like, am I crazy? And I remember she said, crazy people don't ask if they're crazy. It's like, oh, that's a good point. It's like, this is normal. Like, it's hard to be a human. We
Yes.
need tools, and therapy is just getting the tools. And it's good that you brought up you needed to go to a few therapists because that happens too. People might go to a therapist and be like, oh, I don't like this, but it might be the therapist. You just have to find the right fit. So it did help you going to therapy?
Oh, it has a lot. And it has showed me that a lot of what I was struggling is because it's you carry past traumas with you. And
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't realize that certain moments, like, or why would I flip out over such a minuscule thing? And it's because our system is so overloaded
Yeah.
that any little inconvenience seems like a huge. And that's where I'm dealing with
Mm-hmm.
everything, even if it's a minor thing, I just blow up, and it's because I'm in fight or flight mode, because I'm
Right.
waiting for the next shoe to drop, because I want to be on alert in case
Right.
something else happens.
Yeah, it's thinking of the worst. Thinking of the worst case scenario. You always think of
Hmm.
that, which you don't want to, and then you end up sometimes manifesting it. So it's hard. Do you like worry about your other kids, especially, or
The
people
time,
around you? Yeah.
all the time. Like, I have each one. Let me know when you get to work. I don't sleep unless I know that they're home. I
Mm,
worry, even the adults. I'm like, tell me when you get to work. Let me know that you're safe,
yeah.
because of that trauma.
And they understand that, or do
Mm.
they?
And they do. They
Oh,
humor
good.
me.
Yeah, that's good.
And they know that it's just something that I'm slowly trying to process. Or I become like such a hoarder because I'm trying to save everything. And I'm learning how to let go. And that part of it is also because of grief. It's also because of trauma. And those are
Hmm.
things that we don't realize.
Yeah, think about like everybody's walking around traumatized for something, and when people blow up, usually it's because of some underlying issue. Like road rage for me is a big thing. I feel like safe getting mad in my car, but I'm not really mad about people driving. It's like it
Mhm.
triggers me my anger that's already festering. So
Right.
yeah, it's good
And
to
those are
have.
things that we're learning as adults now. We grew up in a different society than kids today now, I
Oh
feel,
yeah. Oh yeah. Now it's like
you know.
everybody talks about mental health. Back then it's like you don't talk about like feelings. Like you said, don't
Right.
cry. Even my mom told me not to cry. She's like, babies cry. And I'm like, okay. So when she died, I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to cry about this. It was very confusing.
Because you're supposed to handle it like an adult, right? And
Yeah.
you don't, adults need to vent too. And that's like,
Mhm.
it's like relearning steps. And that's what I have to remember. And be kind to myself. Self-care is a big thing.
Oh yeah. And you're nurturing your inner child. That's the thing I've worked on a lot is nurturing because not only am I taking care of me right now, I'm taking care of little Cassandra who didn't have anyone to take care of her.
Right.
you know you kind of heal your past versions of yourself while you're healing your current version. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I know what you mean.
yeah, it can be really overwhelming, but yeah, self-care is huge. I'm so glad that's like out there now. It's like not selfish to take time and rest, take care of yourself and really nurture yourself because the world is really hard. And now there's, especially, yeah, during COVID and stuff, everybody's traumatized in some way.
Oh yeah, we've been through
Yeah.
a lot in the past in the past 4 or 5 years. Like to me, I have a before COVID memory and a after COVID memory.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So true. Like the world totally changed and everybody's traumatized. Like I would always joke, like, oh, this is just another layer, but it does affect you, like that isolation that we got put through. And now this year, starting off with the fires in California and all this stuff going on, like it's like so important, more important than ever to like take care of ourselves and our spirit and call out to those people that we miss and love. Like, hey, help me out with this, like protect me. I really believe in that too.
Manifestation, I believe in that, and that's why I like my new therapist. She's awesome.
Good.
She believes in holding crystals and energy, and I do believe in that too.
Yeah, I got crystals right here on my desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 and even if it's a placebo effect, it's like the intention. You're putting the
Right.
intention on that certain crystal and you're thinking about it. You're having good thoughts and thinking about gratitude. And, it's important to remember the people we've lost. That's why, I've created this because a lot of people just, they told me, look, your mom's gone, move on. She wouldn't want you to be sad. I'm like, no, I don't like that. Like, I want her to be here. And if she's here spiritually, that's better than nothing to me.
And I do believe that because I've had my own family say, you're not letting his soul rest. No, I don't believe that. I believe
Yeah.
that their energies and we do have to keep their memory alive. We do have to keep their spirit alive. And I know that they're with us and we do reunite. So that's the conflict I have when it comes to religion. So I say I'm
Hmm.
spiritual. I do believe in the higher power, but can I say I believe in the God that the Catholics do or the Christians do or the Mormons do? No, not the
Yeah.
same.
What religion did you grow
I
up
was a
in?
Latter-day Saint. I was a Mormon.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were Mormon. So, what was their
Hmm.
view on the afterlife?
Um, they do believe that there's an afterlife, but they push their profits more. So there was
Mm,
some things that, when I became a teenager, I started not agreeing with. And that's separate from the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, the ones that have the multiple
yeah,
sister
yeah.
wives things going. So when people would hear Mormon, they would think like that. But yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
so
don't think of that. I knew Mormons in college. I knew a Mormon girl in college, and they're very strict. It's very strict from what I
it
remember.
was.
And it's
So
was it like Jehovah's Witnesses with Prince, where you couldn't like associate with other people? Did you like they try to keep everybody in the church, or what was
they
that?
do to me, they, I felt like they are like old school, not Amish, but do the husband is the leader and the wives would be baking and cooking and you can't wear,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like jeans. They weren't
Yeah,
saying you couldn't, but they frowned upon it. They wanted you to wear the long dresses and
dress. Yeah, I remember those below the
yeah,
knee. I
don't
remember.
drink caffeine, no soda, no coffee. So early on in teenagehood, I left that. I was like, this is not for me. That was because my mom brought me into that religion. Before she passed, she got baptized as a Christian. So then she went to the Christian religion, which I was a little bit more okay with, but
Mm,
not as spiritual and not as deep into religion as my mom was.
yeah, yeah. I don't blame. I don't blame you. I'm not
Yeah.
into it either. I mean,
Like I
I
felt like
believe
Prince was like that towards the end. I don't think he was as hard into the Jehovah's Witness when he passed away
no,
as
not
he
when he
once
was like
was.
talking about like mandalas and like other spiritual things. Like
Mhm.
I don't think so either. And he was kind of seemed like he had distanced himself from that at the end. But he was so so alone and oh, it's just awful. How did you react to his death?
Everybody called me. You would have thought that it was like a family member, because
Yeah,
everybody was calling me, giving me their condolences. I was crying. I was devastated.
Yeah, it was awful. It, like, sent shockwaves through
Oh yeah.
our
And
community.
especially because I like Labyrinth, David Bowie, and David Bowie had passed that January, like early on into the year. So I was like, that's a bad way to start. And then to lose Prince like 3 months later, oh no.
Because, yeah, fear of abandonment. Like, we
Hmm.
all have it from death and from someone leaving, and that's a form of grief, and it comes up. You
Relationships. Like
yeah.
you wouldn't think that grief affects relationships, but it does.
Oh yeah, it does. Like any breakup too triggers grief because, that
Yes.
person as you knew them is dead to you in a way. The person, the future you thought you had, that's gone. So yeah, breakups can trigger grief. So it's like there's different kinds of grief, and different layers of it, but each one is kind of connected and triggers each other. We're all walking around like ticking time bombs. So it's really important.
Yeah, we are. Like I notice, like I like to plan and have plan ahead and write down my appointments and everything because I want to be prepared. I want to be
Mhm.
prepared. I don't want no surprises. And that is part of grief.
Yeah, it's control. You
We
want
don't think
control.
about the little things, right?
Yeah.
Wanting to have the control of situations and people and things, and it's
Yeah.
hard
Yeah, it really is. What advice could you give to someone grieving now?
to talk about the person. Don't feel like you have to forget about them or if people tell you move on. No, talk about them. If that makes you feel better, talk to them out loud. If that makes you feel better, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to, you know, miss them, but also get up and and continue life. They wouldn't want you to, just crumble up. And that's a big part because I feel guilty. The guilt that I feel, oh, I can't enjoy this too much.
Mhm.
I deal with guilt, with what could I have done different, with what could I have said to her. So now, if I have any, questions or whatever, I ask them out loud. I write them down in my journal, and ask for an answer. And you would be surprised, whether I read it in a book and I'll find the answer. There's ways that they hear you and let you know.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom says to me, yeah, I'll see a sign or like something out in the world or something on TV will pop up and I'm like, oh, there's my answer. So yeah, it's so
Mhm.
real. I'm glad you said that and brought that up. Okay, so at the end of all these episodes, I've been asking questions about people's loved ones. And since you have two people, would you be down to answer two answers for each question? Okay. So, what's your favorite memory of your mom and your son?
My mom taking me out of school and taking me to the Pomona County Fair
Oh,
as a
that is
little
fun.
kid.
Oh,
She
hooky.
like, yeah. It was she had a habit of doing these weird and exciting things that are like core memories to me now.
Oh,
So that's a memory that I'll have taking public transportation and going to the carnival and having a funnel cake and riding the rides, and that's something that I'll always hold dear. And with my son, him and his twin brother would always hold hands and they couldn't sleep without each other. And one of the memories I have of them is holding hands and each of them running their fingers through each other's eyes, like to
oh,
like sleep.
oh, so sweet. Oh, what's a song that reminds you of them?
My mom, it's Spanish song. It's her, saying farewell to a loved one.
Mm.
And my son, it's Imagine Dragons, Thunder.
Oh, oh, that's cute.
He would
What
sing,
was?
he's the lightning before the thunder. So
Oh,
his twin is the thunder, and he was the lightning. I have that uh, like a vinyl on my van.
oh, what was their most notable feature?
With my son, he was so kind and warm. When the pandemic hit, he went and hugged his after school program teacher because she looked sad, and he told her, "Don't worry, we'll get to see you again," and gave her a big hug. And
Oh,
my mom, she was the life of the party. Everybody loved inviting her to dances or any events because she would be the first one to dance and bring people to the dance floor and just liven up the place.
oh, that's fun. Did they have any funny sayings? or
Hmm.
any particular sayings they would say a lot that remind you of them or that you say now?
Um, with my twin, I just remember him saying everybody for themselves because I asked him, aren't you scared about the whole coronavirus and the world going on lockdown? And his first reaction was everybody for themselves
Wow.
from an 11-year-old. Okay.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, okay. And my mom, she would just tell me to be kind and look for the helpers.
Aw. Any traditions or hobbies you've continued for them or because of them?
No, not that I can remember. I just, continue thinking about them and talking to them every day and hoping they look after us until we meet again.
I love that. Any mementos or precious objects you have of theirs?
I have my son's finger fingerprint tattooed on me. I
Aw.
don't know if you could see it. So I had both of the twins'
Mhm.
thumbprint tattooed on.
And then your mom, you said you have her a robe now?
Yes, I have her robe. It's a like a shawl, kind of Mexican shawl. I don't know.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm gonna have to find a picture and I'll show you.
Yeah, I love to see it. What important lessons did they teach you?
Just to be kind and loving and
Yeah,
appreciate everything, big or small.
yeah, that's important. Um, what do you want us to know about them?
That they were beautiful beings, even though they were here a short time.
Can you describe them in one word?
Extraordinary,
Aw. Yeah.
taller than life,
What's your message for them now?
guiding us until we see them again.
Thank you so much for doing this. I
Thank
hope
you.
I hope it helped a little bit.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thanks for being here and remember forever.